Welcome to the Bercich Breakdown. After a bye week, we say hello to Peter Bercich once again, the Vikings analyst on all their broadcasts along the Vikings ever expanding, I think is what PA says, Vikings radio network.
Yes, it's the audio network now, apparently.
Oh, that's right. Because it's streaming. There's so many ways now. You don't just have to listen to the radio. You could get
I didn't get the memo, so I guess it's audio network now.
All right, I will remember that for next week. First off, just before we dive into the Eagles, I want to go back to that final drive that Carson Wentz put together, where he went 7 for 7. I think he threw for 71 yards and took the Vikings down the field to victory. What was different about that drive? And more importantly, is that something that can be replicated by this Vikings offense moving forward?
I mean, you hope so. And I think part of what I saw in that game that really stands out is just the rapport that he's starting to build with Justin Jefferson. JJ is one of the best in the league. We've seen it year after year with the 50-50 ball. Put the ball somewhere in his vicinity, and he'll find a way to come down with it. The problem that we have is we don't have a quarterback that sticks around for more than a year, so every guy that walks in the door has to learn this. And it really looks like Wentz has kind of figured that out. We saw that with the deep throw down the middle against cover 2 that he threw to Jefferson. And then on that drive in that series when he was 7 for 7, he had a 21-yard pass to Justin Jefferson on the sideline. And it was just a back shoulder fade. The ball was going that way from the snap because they had rolled up press coverage, and that's just where he wanted to go with it, and ended up being one of the biggest plays of that drive. And then ending it with 3 good throws to Jordan Addison. Finally, the last one being the touchdown. The circumstances called for that short passing game really to show up. So I don't know if we're going to see it exactly the same. But like I said, I just hope that that his confidence in Jefferson, we start seeing maybe some more footballs going his way, different types of throws going his way, just because I think Wentz is starting to get a feel for, the catch radius of Justin Jefferson.
All right, another thing that's, I think, not gotten a lot of attention, and you being a detail-oriented guy, I think you can bring some light to it as that fires up some synapses in your brain, that Monster Energy. Blake Brandell, for him just to step in there, and basically I think I only saw one bad snap that was on the ground, and Wentz was able to pick it up, give it to Jordan Mason, and nobody really noticed it. How complicated was that, and how well did he do in that situation? Can you put it into layman's terms of what the Vikings actually asked this guy to do, who had never been a center in the NFL before?
Well, the mechanics of being a center is not that. Some of those aren't easy and you go from being in a 3-point stance and doing everything to snapping the football and then having to go into it. So there's a lot in the way of fundamentals, the snap count, being more involved in all of that. All those mechanics, those are a big deal. The fact that he's a veteran, I think he knows the offense pretty well, allows for that, and he took advantage of that. We've seen guys in the past move from guard to center. Frank Ragnow is the one that sticks out in my mind, highly drafted, played guard for the Lions, did okay, right? He wasn't, I don't think, playing at the level that they expected. Then they moved him to center, and then the light bulb came on, and he was one of the best centers in the league for many seasons. Is Brandell at that level yet? No, but it's a different world there because guards, if the guard kind of becomes a tackle as soon as the center turns the opposite way, meaning if I'm the left guard and the center snaps the ball and goes to his right, I'm now one-on-one with an interior tackle, and there's a lot of space. So that's where the guard position has become much more difficult over the past 10 years. And,
Okay.
it's always been that way, but with how good and how big and how fast these interior defensive linemen have become, it's tough. Now, as a center, you're always kind of the help guy, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Right.
And being able, and he's so big too, right? He's a 315 plus pounder. He's a big guy, and that helps a ton at that position, because really most of your blocks are if you're on the point or on the front side of a run, most of the time it's a double team. But what he did wasn't easy. And yeah, I think he did a really, really good job. I mean, that was something going into that, you go into that game, your entire 3 of your 5
Right.
offensive linemen are out.
It was a
And
mess.
then you only get your left tackle for 3 quarters. Don't forget that. I mean,
Yes.
Darisaw came out toward the end of the third quarter. And so then now you have 4 out of the 5 are new. And yeah, I thought that was pretty impressive. And I didn't want, I did a video on that only because I did not want that to I wanted people to see that and remember that. And they did some tweaks to the running game from a schematic standpoint, some different runs, a trap, some other things that they threw in there to help those guys out. And it, you're going against one of the best defensive fronts in football, and you're able to run for almost 100 yards and not be a total disaster.
Yes.
That was a pretty impressive outing for that group.
All right. Before we dive into Wentz versus McCarthy, who starts, one last thing on that. Is he now considered the center moving forward till Kelly comes back? Do you think he did enough to show that the Vikings don't need? They haven't brought anybody in this week since they returned or during the bye, so they must be pretty satisfied with what they saw.
Yeah, he's the center going forward.
All right. Okay, here it is. JJ versus Carson. One has a bad wing. The other's got a bad foot. They're playing it close to the vest. O'Connell does say he will announce who his starter will be before the game. He won't go up till kickoff and leave everybody in the dark. How big a decision is this in your mind? Or is this just 1 week's decision and then we revisit it after this Sunday?
Again, I think it's short-term, long-term, right? If you want to win now, Carson Wentz is your guy, assuming that he's healthy enough, right? We're assuming he's healthy
Correct.
enough. Yeah, Carson Wentz is your guy, no question about it. And you see that and you're like, yeah, you want to win now. You got some tough games coming up, but at the same time, you've got a younger quarterback that you need to develop. And what you don't want is to go into the offseason this year the same way you did last year with a big question mark drafted in the top 10. So, I would assume have a plan in place to say, this is when the change is going to happen. This is when the change is going to occur. They may not make that public. They may not, they might hold that close to the vest and talk about injuries and talk about those things. Mechanics, fundamentals. I know they've discussed that quite a bit. So, they're going to, not going to call it a game, but you have to figure that out. And that's a high level organizational decision, is to sit down and say, head coach, general manager, what are we going to do here? Do we want to win now, or do we just go into it and go with the younger quarterback and take our lumps along the way and be ready for next year? So just get used to it. Get used to it. It is what it is. It's how it's going to be. And this question's not going away after this week, unless something, takes one of the two of them out per se. But yeah, get used to it. And like I said, Carson Wentz is getting better. But he should. He's been playing, and if he's healthy, then he's probably the best bet if you needed to win Sunday. bottom line, not worrying about the future.
All right. Is there any concern, and you were obviously a player and also a coach, so you had a good gauge on the locker room. Is there any concern on your part that there becomes factions in the locker room, that this group wants JJ and this group, nah, let's go with Carson. He's the old vet, he's the guy that can get us over the top. Is there any concern about that? Or again, is the picture so much bigger than just what's going on at the surface right now?
I think the answer to that in the locker room comes down to respect, and it comes down to faith in who's making the decisions. If you have respect and faith in the people that are making those decisions, then even if you may disagree with them, you're still going to go out there and do what you do the best that you can, and not cause a problem, cause a stir, make it one of those kinds of situations in the locker room. So that's a test. It's a test of the character of the locker room. And I'm not saying that this is the case or it's that obvious or that's exactly, that's what's going on. It can be an issue with teams, but that's where all this, the character building and getting the right people and the collaborative environment, that's kind of what it all comes down to. Is so when changes like this may have to be made or are made, they're not going to, put half of the team in the tank, so to speak.
Right. Because to me, that would be a big concern with the team, that you need, right? They spend all this time building the bond and getting everybody on the same wagon, and then all of a sudden you got two guys breaking up the team of horses and they're splitting off the other direction.
Yeah. And Jim, this is, as Denny would say, coaches coach, players play, administrators administrate, right?
Yes.
And then know your role and accept your role, right? If you're a player, you're not a coach, you're not picking who starts and who doesn't. So tough. You got a problem with it? Come see me. It's just, you kind of, part of me still chuckles, not chuckles at that, but it's God, it wasn't even a consideration years ago. It was the head coach the coaches make the decision, and that's what happens. You don't like it, then goodbye. You know what I mean? And so
exactly. Now
that it could be a faction in the locker rooms and things like that, which is a reality these days. It's kind of new territory, right? And personally, I wouldn't be sympathetic to that, because you signed a contract with this team, you're playing for this coach. Your job is to play your position to the best of your ability, regardless if player A or player B is throwing you in the damn football, right? Go out there and do your job. And, maybe it's just a reality that we live in these days. I don't know.
Correct. All right. The run defense. Okay, here comes Saquon Barkley. We all know what he could do. Brian Flores was quoted this week as saying, how to stop him? Well, he says, I don't need just one guy. I need 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys to stop this guy. And he says crowd noise would help. Basically, he needs everything he could think of to stop him. But if Blake Cashman comes back, does he cure what's wrong with this run defense right now? Because they're averaging over 130 yards against. They're ranked in the lower half of the league in run defense. How much could Blake, who's now his injured window is open so he could come back in the next 3 weeks, how critical is he to that run defense? Or is it VanGinkel, who has also been sidelined?
Well, I think VanGinkel's going to be a bigger part of this, and let me elaborate on that. The run game of the Eagles is different than what we have faced the last couple of weeks. The running back is better, but they don't present the same problems that Cleveland and Pittsburgh do. Cleveland and Pittsburgh, they'll throw as many tight ends on the field. They throw extra offensive linemen on the field, and they like to run off tackle. And that's kind of the area that has been an issue. It's just the way the backside tackles and outside linebackers are playing some of these runs, and it's a technique thing. It's kind of a it's not a very exciting topic, right? Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
It's just a matter of those guys playing those positions and those techniques better. Okay, it's not a schematic thing where guys going in the wrong gap, or it's a technique thing. And VanGinkel is very, very good. I mean, Grenard is excellent at it as well, but VanGinkel would be a huge add in that regard, in that one specific way. All right. So Dallas Turner's been playing well. He's playing better than he has since he's been here. But VanGinkel against the run, he's just very cagey. He's very good. He has a great feel for it, because when you're two gapping and doing things like that, you need to have a feel for the run. It's not as simple as it used to be with Tony Dungy, where you just had a gap and you fit it. That's what you did.
Okay.
This requires a little bit more of a feel for the run game. So I think VanGinkel will be more important in that regard. But Philly's a 3-wide offense, so they don't stack tight ends on top of tight ends, right? They don't necessarily spread you out. Maybe they'll try this week. They've seen it the last couple. Maybe they'll change, but they're a 3-wide offense. And so with our front, it's going to pack some more people in the box. So I think just from a schematic standpoint, what we do is going to work well against this type of look. Now, it may give away middle open, middle closed. It's a little tougher to disguise your coverages, so to speak. But against the run, I do think I do think we're going to be pretty well suited, and we're going to need to be, just because of how good Saquon Barkley is, and that offensive line. They have Tyler Steen starting at right guard with Dickerson's. He's been hurt. Mailata's playing left tackle. He's been okay as of late. I don't think he looks 100%. Struggling with movement, and you get Grenard out there who can run stunts and do those things. I think you're gonna want to put these guys up front on the move, I think, quite a bit, and try to. You just don't want Saquon to get head of steam north and south, because this guy is dangerous, and they don't hand him the ball a ton. And the best defense in this game could be like what I have up here on the screen. He might be the best defense they have this game. And they may say, forget the pitch count. We're just going to hand it to Saquon 30, 35 times, because that's what we need to do to stop the skid. That's what we need to do to get off this losing streak. And they may just do that. So that's something to watch during the game, is if they're giving Saquon Barkley a heavy load of this run game, then that's a tactical move on their part.
All right. Speaking of things to watch, right after this video on YouTube, it'll click to Pete's video, Eye in the Sky. It's right back over there. Vikings, Eagles, and that's his YouTube channel. He's got all sorts of great videos, made some during the bye. He didn't sit around during the bye. He kept producing content. What jumps out at you for this Vikings Eagles clip you put together? What did you want the fans to take away from?
I think, like most fans, you watch the game on Thursday night and you're thinking, how in God's name did the Giants do that? Right? Yes. You're thinking the Giants are a train wreck and they come out and beat the Eagles. Well, so I'm curious. You want to know. You watch the film, and the Giants ran a certain counter play with Scatabo, and it looked familiar to me. And so I went back and I found the exact same play that the Kansas City Chiefs tried to run against them in the Super Bowl. Exactly the same play. I mean, same formation, same quarterback spinning around, counter OY with the guard and the tight end, and just looking at the difference with how the Philly defense, they just absolutely destroyed. They absolutely blew up this play in the Super Bowl.
Right.
And then you watch last week with Zadarius Smith playing outside linebacker, it goes for 7 yards, right? So that's part of it. Tackling is part of it. running to the football is a big part of it. And these things you have to keep in mind, they're almost all effort kind of related. And so those guys, if they feel their backs are against the wall enough and they care enough, they can get a lot better in a hurry just by that unit laying it out there on the line. Now, Jalen Carter, interior tackle, he's been hurt. There was talk about him, how he came on the field before the Giants game with his agent and then just walked off. So who knows? There's a lot of drama going on with this club. So who knows? But they need him back because guys like Jordan Davis, Ajomo, those guys are playing a lot. I mean, nowadays, interior defensive linemen play, 50% of the snaps, and they get a break some of the other time. But these guys are out there almost 80, 90% of the time. So they need more bodies in the middle. They need to be more physical in the middle. They're taking Jihad Campbell and putting him on as an outside or a defensive end, outside linebacker when they go to a 5-man front. That's not working very well for them all the time. So yeah, it's an effort thing. And they played a lot of man against the Giants, against, a quarterback in Jackson Dart that can scramble. And that's what Dante Culpepper lived on. He dropped back, C2 man, he pulled that thing down and just run because he knew everybody's eyes were on their coverage and no one was looking at him. He'd get 10, 15 yards before people could even react. And the Giants were able to do that offensively against this team. So I think it'd be very interesting to see what changes they make if there are new numbers and new bodies added to this mix, like, Jalen Carter especially.
Right.
That's going to help him quite a bit. Offensively, yeah, they're just the timing's off. Some of the things are off. Jalen Hurts just not quite running the quarterback options and things the way he was. They're sticking with this 3-wide offense, and they're putting a lot on him, and he doesn't always rise to the occasion. But we'll see if the defense can get after him a little bit, get him on the ground, get him to panic a little bit. It's still legal to hit the quarterback. You got to hit him a few times, and that's going to help.
All right. So that's coming up right after this video. Eye in the Sky, if you want to go find it. He's got all his YouTube videos right there, and they are worth the visit. That is Pete Bercich. You'll hear him on the Vikings audio network this Sunday when the Vikings take on the defending Super Bowl champs. And Pete will join us Sunday night right here on Fox 9 at 10:35 for Vikings Post-Game Tonight. Peter, thank you so much. Appreciate the help, and we'll see you Sunday.
All right, Jim, thanks. Looking forward to it.